Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Transpicuous Views. It is, oh my God, April 15th already, and apparently everyone in North America is still having snowstorms. That's what I'm hearing. I have a special guest joining me tonight, and I think we're going to have a really interesting conversation. We don't know where this one's going to go to. I am being joined by Sarah Westall. Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
We're having technical issues to everyone. I'm so sorry. YouTube, the live stream has gone down. To all of you guys who tuned in on the live stream to try and catch the show on RTS Earth, I'm really sorry. It's something.
They won't let me live stream.
Yeah, Mercury in retrograde is fucking us all again. That's what it is. Yeah, sorry everyone, but we'll have this video will be up like tomorrow afternoon. So, Sarah, I'm so glad that you could join us tonight. We've already started off. We've already been getting into some of the stuff, but I think we're going to end up jumping right into the deep end of start talking about some of the science stuff. Because you've interviewed some really interesting people, especially recently.
Well, yeah, I've been, these scientists, a lot of them that I'm interviewing have been considered as one of the top 100, 150 scientists in the world most likely to change the world. And so for me, that's right up my alley. I love it. So
as I was telling you, on the Unfuck It discussion this week, we were discussing one of the latest science-based interviews you did, which was on the universal language and all about water. And those of us who've already seen it have just been so excited, like so excited by some of the information that's coming out. The universal language. Do you think you could possibly kind of just give just a basic idea?
Well, like I was telling you, John O'Leaf is the one that came up with the universal language to bridge particle physics and biology, which is essentially the code for everything. You start being able to have a base, like mathematics is a code for everything, but this is, a step up. It's like taking that and making a code that helps people communicate that bridging of physics and biology, which is really what the world is, right? And along with electric, which is defined in that. And so it's just exciting because those scientists who are, top in the world, they are enamored with John O. They're like, wow, so we're on the edge of just so much amazing, incredible science. My show covers a lot of that, but also I cover the big issues because being at such an advanced state in science, if we don't solve some of these big issues, oh my God, we can do these powerful things with science, and now we got sociopaths running our world. What happens if they take over this thing? That's my concern. We need to fix those things.
Well, what I'm seeing personally is we're seeing like the good old boys are over here. And the good old boys aren't just like the politicians and the finance and, your bankers and your Wall Street, and you've got your big pharma, big oil, etc. And they're very closed-minded, money-grubbing, controlling aspects. And over here we're seeing, like you say, the breakaway. We're seeing scientists starting to break out of the standard science models that have been just hammered for decades and decades and decades. And you have to question. You have to question exactly what you're saying. Are we seeing, can this outrun this mess over here? This old system of grab and control.
Well, it's smart people realize that looking at one variable at a time doesn't work. Our human bodies and the world is not like that. And so if all we're going to do is to have a simple-minded approach, it's just not going to work, and we have to get smarter than that. And I mean, you can be an idiot and say that's the only thing you're ever going to do, or you're going to be smarter and we're going to say we have to figure out for our future of our world and for understanding science, we got to be a little smarter and realize that we got to figure out a method for multiple variables at a time. Depending on what it's so obvious. We're
not single entities. We're not a one-cell amoeba living in a vacuum of space. This is everything. Now, I'm just going to take a pause here. I just put into the chat the YouTube channel. If you can copy paste that YouTube channel, Sarah.
Yeah.
And put it in your note. It is going live. That is John Carl's stream.
Oh, so it is working now.
It's not on RTS. We can't make the link up for some reason. But you
Actually,
can go
to Danny, it's your stream.
Is it my stream? So okay. So if you click on that, the YouTube link that's in the chat there, and if you can put that in for your people to see, they will be able to watch the live stream on my YouTube channel. We just can't get it to run on this website right now.
Okay, I went back to my. Okay, let me get that.
Sorry, everyone. We've had some technical issues. Like I said, Mercury in retrograde and all that incredible crap. Apparently, it's taking out washing machines this week. It was computers last week. This week, apparently, everyone's washing machines are dying. So.
Okay.
I also put it in the comments as well.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
We'll just get that all sorted. And then we don't want to leave Sarah's viewers hanging there going, but we wanted to see it.
What is it? Removing the shackles, yeah.
Yeah. If they just even YouTube, go into the search and just type in removing the shackles, it'll come up.
Okay. I got it now. Yay, let's see if somebody commented. Okay. Stream has jumped to here. Yeah, you're the comment. Okay, it's all there.
Okay, so we're not, as you said, for so long, everything has been kept isolated. And we've seen this across the spectrum. It doesn't matter if you're talking politics, finance, science. Everything is kept very, very isolated. And the minds that do these things and come up with these things are also kept very, very isolated. And I think we're seeing a breakaway. Like right now, kind of across the board, we're seeing a breakaway where people are starting to de-isolate themselves and are starting to stretch across in what they're researching.
Well, yeah, and there's more people saying, they outwardly say that the great advancements happen from people outside the field. And you're hearing more and more people, even in the business world, you're hearing more and more people talk about stuff like that. I think it's Finland's education system has changed so they can do a crossbreed of different disciplines. I mean, people are realizing we got to get people thinking, cross. And it's our culture. It's embedded in our university systems. I don't buy into, maybe there's a few nefarious characters that are making us think that. I think it's part of our culture. And I also think people aren't very smart, the average bear. And it might be because we're dumbed down by by our system. But if we were allowed to be creative from the time we were born, maybe people could see broader and more spectrum. I don't know. But it definitely, we have to get there because otherwise we're going to have more and more problems, with all our diseases and everything else.
Well, I had on Lainey Liberty and her son Miru, who are the people who created the World School Project. And they're traveling, they're homeschoolers, unschoolers, and they travel around the world. And they do amazing retreats for teenagers, etc. And Miru made a really good point, because a lot of people who homeschool worry about, oh, but what happens when my child wants to go to university, etc. And he says, right now, the big universities, like the Ivy League universities, are looking for the homeschooled, the unschooled, because they've learned to think outside the box. Exactly. And all of a sudden they're realizing, wait, we need people in business, in finance, in science, in technology, who are capable, who have been allowed to be creative and think outside these boxes that have been put within the education system.
Well, and it's almost if you think outside the box, people laugh at you. You know, you're taught to stay within this box, because if you say, then you're made fun of, which we all know, the alt media and what we do, we're considered quacks and things. It's like, well, why is that quackery if it all makes sense and there's logics and facts and all this stuff behind it? Why? That's BS, right? I mean, I know it's BS. And then the conspiracy theory stuff. Well, why is that conspiracy theory when all I'm doing is asking a question that really makes a lot of sense? That's BS. I know that's not conspiracy. You guys are losers. But they put this, it's self-contained culture. It's this, we're afraid to not be a sheep, you know, and so all the mavericks go out and do it anyways, because they realize, well, that's stupid. I'm not going to be a sheep when it's so obviously dumb. And then we're getting enough people following us to a point until it becomes the momentum is growing. We get enough people where the sheep won't be afraid to follow us anymore. And that's happening.
Yep. It is happening. We're seeing, it's funny, I had a conversation with my husband about this, and it's a conversation we have in this group here all the time. We're seeing a radical amount of transparency coming out right now. And you could call it, to a certain degree, disclosure. We have, and again, across the board, whether it's finance, whether it's now politics, because let's see, the political stuff, the bullshit is just being called out left, right, and center and being seen for what it is. Syria, this whole thing this weekend is an example of that. But we're seeing it in
the mainstream media. Not to interrupt you, the mainstream media, Carlson Tucker was the only one that he just had some basic questions, and they assaulted him as being a Looney Tune and insane and all this. So the mainstream media are still in their nut job. They're the nut job quacks right now.
Oh, they are.
Things. So we still have this like anchor on our boat, you know, that we got to pull that anchor. But anyways,
but you know what? They've already done it themselves, right? Because this is the whole thing. You look at CNN, and I use them as such an example because they have destroyed their reputation in the last couple of years. I mean, literally any person with inactive brain cells to the point of going, what? So their numbers, BBC, exactly. CNN, their numbers of viewers are radically dropping. And it's even to the point of things like your Wall Street Journal, they
deserve that.
They were, absolutely. But
if
these are the big guys.
Work.
Yep.
Yeah, if you're not doing competent work, you deserve to lose your audience.
Yep.
Period.
And this is what's happening. So what I'm seeing is that more and more people are starting to see their crap. And then they're coming out and going, whoa, 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 there's got to be another story. And they're actually looking to find a better something that they can sink their teeth into, that they have maybe a little more faith in, for lack of a better word.
Well, they're realizing, well, wait a minute, that person's not a nut job or a quack or conspiracy. I had those problems too, and they make sense, and you're lying. And then, so they're starting to realize that. Lie after lie after lie after lie. And now they're like, okay, I don't know who to trust, but I don't trust you.
Yeah.
You know?
But we're seeing now stuff coming out even in science, in medical, especially in medical. We're seeing more and more articles, research papers, etc. come out. Now, the mainstream isn't covering it, obviously. But for those people who have gotten sick and tired of the mainstream bullshit, if you go looking, it's now there for you. Like, I mean, now we're seeing stuff that 10 years ago, when I first first got into the vaccine stuff was 15 years ago. And when you wanted to look up really good hardcore papers to prove your point, it was tough going. Like you had to go to libraries, you had to like pull this shit out. Now this stuff is just flowing. It's flowing out. There's a difference. There's a change happening right now. And I think it's people like I've forgotten his name. Jono?
Jeremy?
And Jeremy. These guys.
Max Champney.
Yeah.
Ken the scientist. Yep.
They're making a difference because all of a sudden now they have a voice. Because people can read the mainstream about, pick a topic, global warming or the geomagnetic storm that's coming to kill us all, etc., and go, wait.
And that's what's so great, because now we're bringing in scientists who are well trained, and it might not be all in university, well trained because they spend so much time thinking about it. And let's face it, a lot of the corporations are way past the universities, or the labs or the research, out private research. And so they're coming in saying, wait a minute, we want to be part of this. We know what we're in the forefront. And because I've been able to interview almost any scientist I want to, on the edge of different science subjects. And they are thankful. They want to talk about this, and they want to get the word out and help push the edge of science forward. And they want it to be embraced, because they don't want to be out in the fringes either. Nobody wants to be looked at as they want to be able to move forward in a scientific, and when I say science, put some precision and some factual behind it.
Yep.
And, one thing Jono said, which I love this, and I've been repeating this a couple times. He goes, scientists do not have a monopoly on ideas. Ideas come from everywhere, all of us. What they have a monopoly on is precision. Mm-hmm. They take those ideas, but right now they think they have a monopoly on ideas too, and that's dangerous. They can't have that. It's just not the way it works.
Yeah, and these guys, they're human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? If they're impassioned and if they've done all this research, they want their research to come out. They want the world to know about their research. Okay. They want this, so they want to have a place, a broadcast, a voice where they can put out their knowledge and say, hey, we've discovered this, and we are so excited about it because it means this, and this. So yeah.
Well, and they're fully aware that we need to understand this, because there's some pretty dangerous stuff that's happening. I mean, Stanford, this a couple years ago, they were able to take a thought and put it in a mouse's brain and teach them how to, without them ever doing it before, go through a maze. They teach them that, they can put lessons. They're simple right now, but that was 2 years ago. So I don't know where they're at now. They're probably doing a little bit more complex, but we're on the edge of being able to program brains, and
we're beyond that now. We are so beyond that.
I know that you guys are, like in the Breakaway civilization, or in the, what do you call it? The space program and all the things, but the average scientists are doing that. Do you know what I mean? And so I think there's a gap of, I don't know where this other program's at, right? All I can say is what I know, what mainstream people are going, and whatever this other program's at, that gap's closing.
Well, and I track DARPA. DARPA is my boys who I track the stuff, and I have files. And I've been tracking some of the stuff since 2011 that they were doing in 2011 and 2012, that they fully admitted we've done this. Like, we've created a prosthesis that we can put in you, and we can tell your body what to do. As in, we can control your body and tell you walk left, walk right, jump up and down.
Because they know the signals. I knew they could do that, because they've been working on that for a long time, because they know what nerves cause what to do what. Just like they can put a camera on Mars and hook the signal to your brain, and you feel like you're looking at, they've been able to do this for a while now, 10 years.
Exactly.
They've been able to, so you feel like you're looking at Mars as if you're there.
Yep.
Right? Now they also have body suits. So if you have like the Avatar movie, we can do that, the crude version of we have all those abilities. You feel like you're there because you see it, you feel it, you get all the senses, but you're not. So I can see how it can be really weird you could get yourself into some situation where you don't know where you are.
Well, sometimes you have to look, for me, I look at some of the extreme stories that come out. Some of the stuff that comes out that's unexplainable. And then you say, okay, well, wait a second. If they have this technology, and we know they do, then perhaps some of these unexplainable stories aren't so unexplainable. They're just not described. The story is not being given its full of how they achieved this or how a guy went from here to over there, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, a perfect example might be some of the energy weapons that they have that they're using on people, right?
Yeah.
And I'm doing a show on that tomorrow, actually, with people who've been going to different conferences are being hit by energy weapons and they're ending up in the hospital. And so what's going on there? And so we're digging into that we're going to have 3 people on who have been hit, and they've been tracking, and there's starting to be a long list of people who are victims of this. And so I'm digging into it and figuring out what's really going on. But energy weapons are real. They've been documented. There's been lawsuits. We know the Russians did it against our embassy. And there was a big lawsuit, and it was dropped. But so we know it's real. And what happened was there was a big lawsuit because all these Americans who were part of this embassy were getting cancer. And then they did some kind of behind the scenes settlement, and it was done. But these things are real. You know, there's people who have whistleblowers have come out and said, yeah, the governments are using it and things. So what's going on with these group of people in the woo-woo world that go to these woo-woo conferences and they're getting blasted by energy weapons? Who's hitting them and why?
Yep. And why?
And we have documentation that they're going to the hospital and they've been damaged. So why are they being targeted? Who's hitting them? And why, what's going on? So that's going to be the show tomorrow.
Oh, well, I'm going to look forward to watching that one. There's so much going on that is not admitted to. Or let's say is not openly admitted to or discussed in the mainstream media. And you have to know how to go looking and find these little threads of information. But there's also a lot going on, I think, on the opposite sense, in the fact of we've got a lot of things, these amazing scientists like we've talked about, amazing health advances that are coming out that are natural, strangely enough, that are almost balancing it off. And we're seeing, like I say, it's almost like there's a war going on at the moment between the two sides. This is the side that is desperately trying to cling to control. They will do anything they can to maintain their status quo. Yet there's this breakaway over here, and it can't be denied. It can't. Well, the stuff that they're doing can't be denied because it's successful.
Well, when you're successful, people leave to join the success, right? You make something new that's successful, and so they're trying to stop a stream. And the water's gushing more. They had a dam that was working and started breaking, and then they figured out how to go around the dam, and then they're going under it, and now it's starting to gush, and then now they can't stop the water. You can't stop water that decides it's going to be the strongest power in the world, and they don't know what to do. And they can't put enough dams to stop it. The water is going to win, and they're trying to swim upstream, and the momentum is going against them, and they're not going to win. It's just a matter of time. Now, the scary part is the technology is so strong, and there's so much you can do that we got to make sure they don't, sociopaths and psychopaths and all the bad guys don't get, I mean, that's a trump card. I mean, I don't want to use the word Trump, but it is. in the sense that they can use powerful technology to do some pretty nasty stuff.
But the thing is from my perspective, what I think we're seeing also is that it is being used But it's almost like, to give an analogy, it's like they've got a 6-shooter. And once they fire off those 6 bullets, they might as well just hit people on the back of the head with the back of the revolver, because that's all that's left. So it feels right now that there's a desperation. Like they are so desperate to maintain that status quo that they're firing off, but they know that they don't have enough resources. They don't have enough bullets, so to speak, to be able to take it all down. So it's almost like they're standing at the top of, just standing at the top of the dam going, I'll just shoot at whatever comes my way to hopefully hold a little bit back, a little bit longer.
Well, you know, the cryptocurrency space, and I'm doing a show on this I was supposed to do it this yesterday, and then he had technical difficulties. Surprise. And then, so we're probably going to do it on Tuesday, but it's cryptocurrencies. And, you know, it's a sad situation because, you know, the governments are going to do their own cryptocurrencies, and they're not going to let the control of the money supply go in the hand without being able to control it. It just, I don't believe that they're not going to want to control it. Well, they want to, but I don't believe that the world will get to a point where they won't be. And they'll be able to track everything and everybody and everything they do. And, you know, kind of like China's social credit system, where if you don't follow what China wants, they shut you off. You can't fly anywhere. You can't buy from certain, you pretty much are shut off from society because you didn't follow their social credit. Your social credit's too low. That's a technocracy nightmare, and it's happening in China. And once you start having everything being tracked, and you don't have a way of balancing, you know, our whole system of government was a balancing between branches. And if you don't create that balance and you have people with too much power tracking the money supply and everything that's going on, you have
like it is right now.
Well, it can get like China and even worse. China's leader, well, anyways, he was going to be the leader for the rest of his life now. And you wonder, we just don't want to go there.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing, though. When it comes to things like places like China, how much of what we're being told is fact? How much of what we're being told is actually playing out to the degree that we're being told is being played out?
Well, you know, I've had some whistleblowers on my show that have been studying China for a long time who, you know, I heard some of this stuff from. So you never know, you know, is this true or not, but very credible sources. And one of the things I learned about China, which was mortifying, is the group of people that are being harvested for their organs on demand. And that's been very well documented. And millions have, what they do is someone wants an organ, you know, Falun Gong practitioners. And if somebody wants an organ, they grab them and they want it fresh. And so there they are. And
which is going on in the Middle East as well. It's going on in Israel. It's going on in certain areas of Africa, South America.
Well, human trafficking, you know, organ trafficking is one of the largest black markets. Human trafficking has bypassed the drug black market, by the way.
Exactly.
So that's one of my passion subjects, is the human trafficking, because I've talked to some victims, and I've talked to a lot of child advocates and people in the child welfare system. And so it's not just bad, you know, this whole sensational topic of Pizzagate or whatever. It's at the local levels and these child welfare systems. Kids are abused at over 50% of those children are sexually abused in the system. They're more at risk in the system than outside of the system. So it's happening in your neighborhood, and they don't want it to be fixed because it is such a lucrative market. And we got to say enough is enough. And so that's where the awakening needs to happen, is at the local levels, where they say, I don't want this in my city. Every city needs to step up and say, every child in our city is precious, and we're going to keep them out of that trafficking. That, you know, and young women, you know, they do little boys and girls and young women. And we just got to say every person in our community is precious, and we are going to treat it like that. No one's going to hurt another little child.
Yep.
The child welfare system. I mean, that's where what they do is they go after people who are on track, no one cares about, supposedly.
Yep.
So we got to start caring about them. I mean,
well, that's the problem of society in general. Mm-hmm. Like, unfortunately, we have a society that doesn't want to look at. I mean, this has been the conversation. The memes went rampant this weekend after the bombing of Syria, which cost millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. And people were saying, right, we could have fed, 100,000 people for 10 years on what you just spent in a matter of like 2 hours shooting off missiles. But we don't. And we have the entire system is completely flawed.
Well, this is what I always look to, is when we were giving out $16 trillion, our government, and when we did the audit against the Federal Reserve, and we learned there was $16 trillion that was giving out, that was like silent in our media. But at that same point in time, they were debating over $6 billion that was going to the welfare system. $6 billion versus $16 trillion. And the $6 billion was 24-hour news cycles all day long versus the $16 trillion that was silent. And I was like, I am in the Twilight Zone or some.
But it's not like
what has a higher priority?
Track, and the 20 trillion that they lost.
21 trillion, yes.
That they just completely lost. So
that they've just two departments.
Just
Department of Defense and HUD.
Yeah. And urban housing.
More.
Yeah, urban housing. What?
Now, why isn't that 24-hour news cycles? Why isn't that the most important news cycle? That would get rid of our debt and put us into prosperity. But yet, we are focused on bullshit. I know you can swear on this channel. And instead, they ignore that. And that's a shame. That is so laughable and so ridiculous that, I mean, that's an program. That's traitorous. That's like we're traitors by not talking about that.
The programming is like
hammered.
So you've got the amount of laws that have been passed in the last 2 years across America to stop people from helping homeless people.
No, I know.
You can't feed them. You can't clothe them. You can't sleep on a park bench. You can't. It sets an entire mindset. And I've had conversations with people over the years who will make these horrible statements, ignorant statements. But, homeless, and they're just dirty, and they're stupid, and they're all drunks, and they're all heroin addicts, and, and you're just like, oh my God, how can you think this way? How can you think this way about your fellow man?
Well, the churches, historically, the churches did that. And there have been a lot of churches that have been doing that who have had problems and are trying to fight back because they're like, this is our mission in life. This is what we do. And now we can't do it. And so I don't know what the heck's going on there. I haven't followed that as much. I learned, this is just pointing out the evil that we need to change around. I mean, there's evil on the edge of science. There's evil in all these diseases. I've been covering all sorts of stuff. There's really cool stuff going on too, but these are the big issues. I just learned that, I've covered the prison system and that it started skyrocketing in the mid-90s in the United States under Clinton. But what it rang a bell, and I don't know why I never connected this dot because it's obvious now that I became aware of it. But, prisoners have a cash flow that's built into them. Every prisoner creates a cash flow for that prison. It comes from the government. Now, what they're doing is taking that cash flow and turning it into collateral for financial instruments. Mm-hmm. And I don't know when it started. I don't know if it started when I think it started in the mid-90s when the numbers went up. But I need to do some more research to verify that because I just learned this weekend, and I'm like, oh wow, that's exactly what is behind it. Now we would have regular numbers in our prison system like any other normal environment, because we have criminals. We all know, we live with them, we see them. There's people who steal, there's people that do bad things.
Yep.
It's not an outside source making those people do bad things. But we know that there's a lot of people who are in there that shouldn't be in there. We know that we imprison people, that there's better things, ways to take care of it. And all that stuff went down when they started putting the drugs into the cities. I mean, there's so many things they can do to fuel that flame. They already have a stream going
deliberately. And when you all of a sudden comprehend how much money. So the straw man accounts. One of the pieces that most people don't realize, when you go into prison, that prison collects your income on your straw man bonds. So on top of the shit that they get paid through the official ways, they collect those increments of your bond, what your bond is worth, all the interest rates that come off that. They collect.
So you've already been studying this.
Oh, I've been doing this for years. Yeah, anything to do with the UCC the UCC filings. So Bill Clinton filed Fred, you may have the date. If not, John, I know you will. A UCC filing, I want to say it was 1996, I think.
That sounds like about the time that all that stuff started going like that.
Guaranteeing the arms and legs of every American to stand for their debt. And this was basically putting all Americans into bondage that they could collect. And this is one of the big changeovers where, for example, if someone goes into the military, guess who's trading on your bond? The military is. When you go into a prison, the prison gets access to all the funds of your bond because they are now your caretaker.
Well, that's when the numbers went up.
Exactly, Deb. You're an indentured servant.
That's when those numbers went up, and that's what's so frightening. And my understanding in my interview that I just posted is John J. Singleton, great guy. I mean, this guy's great. He single-handedly stopped the banks from doing those arbitration clauses with consumers that were screwing everybody over. He got them to stop that. Great guy. But anyways, where was I at? Oh, what I was learning is that those prison bonds are one of the most lucrative areas. They're using those more than mortgages.
Yep. Well, because they can't use the mortgages anymore, because the mortgages have been so crushed down and have been so much derivative piled on top of them that they basically have become pretty much worthless. They're worth pennies on the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you need to have fresh meat, which means the living beings, they are the ones you can keep applying on all of the money.
Well, the prison system has that cash flow of the people in prison, and it's a guaranteed cash flow while they're in prison. So it has a real investment property behind it, and it's obvious, and it's evil. It's not how we should treat human beings, but we're doing it. So,
when you get into that stuff, when you get into that area, there is a darkness, and everyone has got. For me, I've been doing this kind of stuff and this kind of research for years and years and years. And you have certain areas. For me, for example, we talked about the pedophilia stuff. I don't dig deep into that because it's not an area I can handle emotionally. So I've done all the peripheral research. I let all the people bring the research to me, and I have it all, but I don't need to dig. I've been digging for years on the government stuff and the banking stuff and the things like those bonds. When you travel, when you live in another country, guess who's trading on your bond? That other country, which is one of the reasons why you have passports. Because you stamp into that country, that next country you're living under is now trading on your bond after 3 months. Which is why your government won't let you leave the country for 3 months. It's just why they do everything in their power to keep you, that you can only leave for like 3 months at a time before you have to come back again, because they don't want to lose your bond that you're trading on. It is evil. It is the quintessential building block of evil that basically you can almost say everything springs from.
Well, I think the tear down of our society kind of springs from what we're doing with children right now. But
absolutely.
The trafficking is the tear down of our society, and we're seeing the fabric of society being torn. But it tears apart the prison. You know, when you put all those people in prison, it tears apart families. Those are the big issues that I think need to be taken care of, because we can't have just simple. I mean, you can't be that bad. We can't be this bad at doing a community and managing a country. We can't be this incompetent at it and have this science going to the level. That's complete incompetence by our leadership. I mean, I'm sorry. We can't have that kind of, where our citizens are taken advantage of to that degree, where they're damaged mentally for life, that stuff. Where they're incompetent.
This is one of the reasons why I get into the whole thing. I don't vote. I was one of those horrible Canadians who I voted Brian Mulroney into power. I can fully admit it now, although I did hide that fact for over 10 years. And to all Canadians, I apologize profusely. I didn't know. That's all I can say. I was ignorant and I didn't know. When you start looking at the voting system, the entire political system, and it doesn't matter what's Canada, America, England, France, Germany, Italy, it really doesn't matter when you realize that their different parties are all the same bloody party. And when you realize that all these groups, the only reason they get to that level is because they are part of the process.
Sure. Yeah.
They're part of the good old boys club, and that's how they got there.
The evil club. Yeah, Laura Presley is doing a lawsuit in Texas that's reached the Supreme Court. I have really good show on it. It's about voter fraud, and it's important. It's a landmark case going on in Texas about voter fraud. And Hero, I mean, she's just plugging along, doing whatever she can to get this through. And it could make a big difference because we're not, if they don't want you to win, they won't let you win because they'll rig the system somehow. And she's identified that. And we can't make a difference in this country that much unless we can count on the integrity of our system.
But you can't.
You can't the way it is now, for sure. And I don't know if I don't want to be that pessimistic, although I know what the truth is. But getting to a landmark study or a landmark case in Texas in the Supreme Court's a big deal. Yeah. And that's a big deal. Of course, the media is silent locally.
Of course.
How can they be silent on something that's so important? But they are. It gets back to the average person needs to know how incompetent these guys are and look at this case that's at the Supreme Court. This isn't quackery conspiracy stuff. These people are actually at the Supreme Court doing this. Yeah. Understand it. It's important information. And, that is, you have to fix that. Because if we can't vote in our politicians or vote them out, which is even more important, you can't fix anything. Or we just say, okay, we're done. We're going to create our own little country,
Unfucker land. We've been working on it for many years now. Talking, we're going to find Unfucker Island, and that's it. We're all just going to find an island. We're all going to move there and say, all the rest of you can go hang because we're done.
We'll talk to Prime Minister David Williams. He'll help you actually create a country called Unfucker Country or whatever you want to call it. Because he knows how to do it because he's done it.
Yep. So this is the problem. It's corruption goes to the highest levels. The corruption goes to the highest levels, and you only achieve those high levels by being corrupt. It's, to me, when we look at things like the voter system, and we have obviously the flaws. John Carl was just talking about the fact of in the second last federal election in Canada, Harper got 70% of the country said no to Harper, and he still won.
Oh, geez.
Now, how fucked up is the system when everyone in the country is like 70% of them are like, I don't frickin' think so, and he still gets in. The systems are broken. We know the systems are completely and utterly broken, and that's one of the reasons why the voter turnout is so low. What was it? In even the election in 2016, what was it? 24% of Americans voted, 23%. But it's because they know. People know. It's like, it's so, my vote means nothing because I can't even want this or this. No thanks. I don't want either. And that's when we have a problem.
Well, yeah. Well, and that's the only thing we can do is fix it at the base level. That's why I like Laura Presley. At least she's doing something that can make a difference. I don't know. I mean, we can't have these, you call it unfucker land. You can't have these fuckers in office. I call them the worst of the worst. It's like the bottom of the barrel. We're skimming the bottom, scraping it to get the worst people we can find. Yeah.
Are you a sociopath, a psychopath, or just completely a deviant? Come, be a politician.
And then we'll look for the worst ones, and then those are the ones that are going to lead us.
Yep.
And if you're good and you have a conscience, then you're not strong enough to lead.
But here's the thing. You know what? The problem is this, and when you're dealing with the political structure, it doesn't, and this was the big aha moment for me many, many years ago, when you realize that it doesn't matter how honest you are. It doesn't matter how good a person you are. You can get into politics for all the right reasons with the best of intentions. Once you get to a certain level of power, even if you do win, you are silenced. Because we know there are politicians who have gotten to that point. And
they have a file. They have their control files.
They have their control files, whether it's, they got setups, they've got secret cameras, they've got blackmail digital images that have been totally recreated, but that the public will fall for them. It doesn't matter. They are controlled. And that's the flaw of the system.
She's been on my program a number of times, and she came out in my program and told me that all the people around her have been killed, all her main people. And, it's hard to stick with it when that kind of stuff happens, And so, and she asked me, she goes, should I keep going? And I'm like, well, because she's pondering what she's going to do next. And, my thing is I know so many people want her to go and get back into the fight, but it's such a personal decision, because it's when those are the kind of losses that you face, of the kinds of obstacles you're up against, these people are heroes that do this.
Look at the amount of alternative doctors who've been killed in the last couple of years. What are we at now? 87, 88? Doctors who are naturopaths, chiropractors, even mainstream doctors, but who have called it and gone public with the bullshit, and have been public with the research that they're doing about vaccines, about cancer, et cetera, et cetera.
And we know they've been killed because you don't shoot yourself 5 times in the back.
In the back of the head. That's right.
Yeah, you don't do stuff like that, and they say it's suicide. We know that there's so many of them that's like that. And then what makes it worse, instead of saying it was a homicide and saying some, and just whatever, which would be more believable, and it probably wouldn't have made the news as much, they say it's a suicide. So, it's like you gotta at least, you gotta give us more credit to have a little more brains than that.
But that's one of the things that astounds me, is I see stuff that comes out in the news, and because I do a news-based show as well, you read the stuff and you're like, how stupid do you think we are? Because just 6 months ago, you said the exact opposite. And I regularly go, look, this is what they said 6 months ago, and this is what they're saying now, complete opposite, 180-degree turnaround. But they do. They expect, if they can keep the people programmed with their reality TV shows and their Monday Night Football or Sunday night or whatever night that is, I don't know. If you can keep people hopelessly caught up on Facebook and Instagram and all the rest of it, that people won't pay attention. And they don't. That's the thing that gets me, is it's like people's memories are so short that I sit there and go, how can you guys not remember what happened 6 months ago? This thing with the Syrian thing. This thing with the Syrian bombing. And I'm like, dudes, exactly 1 year ago to the day, they did the exact same thing. The exact same thing. How can you not remember this?
There was a survey that showed that over 80% of Americans do not want to be in a conflict with Syria, that do not approve of this. But I don't know why Americans are too afraid to step up. I've been talking about courage. People need to have courage.
Yeah.
Where's the courage? Where's the, why is it just people like us stop, doing something? People need to step up and get some courage. The 5 to 10% of leaders in this country, we know that 5 to 10% make things happen. Those people need to step up and have courage and do the right things. Because right now, the bad guys down the street are stepping up and doing their thing, and we got to keep them from doing it. That's our only way of winning.
And honestly, I think that beyond obviously the extreme greed that we see in the financial markets, one of the reasons why we have seen this decade be so financially oppressed, the average person, there is no middle class anymore. There is no middle class anymore, is because if you can keep people living day to day, paycheck to paycheck, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, both parents are out, the kids are going to school, and then they're going to after school programs until mom can get home, etc. If you can keep them that stressed out financially, that they don't have time. They don't have time. They don't have the ability to be able to look at the broader perspective, because they're just worried about putting food on their table tomorrow morning. And I honestly believe that that's one of the main reasons why they have crushed the middle class, and all over Europe, all over North America. It doesn't matter what country you're in, it's being crushed. And I think it's because if you can keep people hungry and poor, they don't have courage. And it's not even that they don't have courage, it's that they don't have the energy left. They don't have the time to even think about the major issues. You glance at a newspaper or a news screen as you go to work for your second shift of the day, and you see that the U.S. bombed Syria, and you go, okay, I got to go to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's the lower upper class, the remnants of the middle class that are going to have to make a difference. And anybody who, is in the lower class who has time. I mean, it really is that group of people that are going to have to make a difference. But the 5 to 10%, the business owners who don't have time, they got to find time. The entrepreneurs, the business leaders, that 5 to 10%, it doesn't necessarily mean they're educated, although, there's going to be a lot that are. It's the doers in our communities. It's that 5 to 10% that are active. Those are the ones that'll get it done, and those are the ones that need to step up. And I think it's doable, but they have to have the courage. And it takes us this momentum that we're creating, that we're doing, people like you and people like, me and others that are making it okay. It's okay we're giving them the courage. The more we talk about it, the more courage I think we have to do it and question it and say, I need to question this. Questioning it isn't going to lead to losing everything I have anymore. There's enough people now. When you get enough momentum, then we create courage. And, that's why it's so great that you're doing what you're doing. And we got to get more people doing that. And I have so many listeners that say, I'm so thankful for what you're doing, but everybody around me thinks I'm an idiot when I talk about this. Trust me, I get it. I totally get it.
Crazy idiot right here.
But we have to do what we can to, maybe it's in pieces, figure out what things are not too far, not too over the top for them, and start talking and slowly get them to understand that Syria is a big scam. 9/11 was a scam. That things are not what you think they are.
Yeah.
And that will get them thinking once they realize that our government's not, the whole take away the guns thing. I'm not this pro-gun person, but I got to tell you, I don't buy the narrative. Guns are there to protect you from anarchy. They're not there for hunting and collecting and everything else, which people like to do. They're there if a government system gets out of control.
Which is in the Constitution, is it not?
Yes. And when you look at what we're freaking out about, I did a little mini doc on this, and we're freaking out about a small number, less than 2% of the majority of the death or gun violence happens, less than 2% of the counties. And in those counties, just a few neighborhoods. The majority of the country, over 50% of the country, does not have a gun. Zero gun deaths in over 50% of the counties in this country.
Yep.
And the counties.
But everyone goes, let's look at Chicago.
Chicago's gun free. Yep. Right?
Yeah, it's a gun-free zone. Yeah.
And they have more violence. And I looked at the numbers too. I should look at the graph. When they got rid of the guns, it went up. You can't get rid of the guns for the good people, and then there's a big black market.
Sorry, my dog has decided to start woofing now.
Oh, well. I've had a show where my dog starts barking, and then I had Lisa Haven on, and my dog was barking, and then her dog heard her and started barking. They were talking over the...
We do this. John's got a big dog too, and quite often we'll get little conversations going occasionally. If Anne's on, her cat gets involved. It gets like a zoo.
It's fun.
Yeah. One of the things I talk about all the time is the need for community. And we do a show called Common Unity. And that right now, to me, one of the most important things that we need to focus on is community. And it means putting aside belief structures. It means putting aside divisions. It means putting aside, it doesn't matter if you believe the same thing, but if you can bring communities together, you can make a change at a grassroots level, because then you get to know your neighbors. You get to know the guy across the street. And while I always talk about community gardens being one of the best ways to do this, if you're in the ground and you're digging and you're planting and you're growing food or whatever, there is an incredible response in humans that comes from that. In that courage, in that community is how we can find courage. Because if you can start working within a community, you can start helping others find their courage, even if it's to the point of like the little conversations that you have that are quiet and subtle. You can bring the courage up. But it has to be people working together. And the biggest thing that we're seeing, in my opinion, is the division. Everything is divide. And it's not just the mainstream, it's the alternative media is just as bad. Too much divide is going on. And that's how these assholes in power win. Because
exactly.
We're not standing together.
And that's why I say the whole left-right paradigm is a farce. The whole men-women thing. Why? I got a son and I got a husband. I love them both. I'm like, why are we dividing? I care about their needs as much as I care about my daughter's needs. It's like, why would we not? Why? And I don't understand it. And the minorities, why am I even noticing somebody's skin color and stuff? I don't care. I don't care. People are people. I understand cultural differences, but there's differences with people from every country. Every country has cultural differences, and every state does. But I think the whole what you look like thing, like the color of your skin and stuff, is about the dumbest thing. That's really dumb. I mean, it's really dumb. It's like I have a really hard time with people who have issues with somebody because of the color of their skin, or
or their religion, or their financial standing. I mean, but they will use literally anything to divide.
Yeah, anything to divide. It's so dumb. That I think it's dumber with what you look like, though. that, to me, it's just so dumb.
Oh, your Gucci handbag is so last year. I can't be seen associating with you.
Yeah, well, maybe that's even a notch dumber.
Yeah, well, yeah, I like to take things to extreme. The bravery aspect. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I've been a political activist for 20 years. And I've been one of those people who gets out on a street with frickin' placards and like bullhorns and march up and down. And go into Parliament in Canada. I've been into Parliament in Canada to fight several battles. And there's a lot of people right now who are trying to, especially in the alternative media, saying it's no use. Doing this stuff never helps. Writing petitions never helps. And I've always said, yes, it does. It absolutely does. Even if all you're doing is helping change minds of those around you. Enlightening people who are around you in your neighborhood. If you've got a problem, and we have conversations in this group all the time where someone says, "Oh my God, this is going on in my neighborhood," and I'm like, "Have you gathered the neighborhood together to talk about it? Get the neighborhood together. Write a letter. Put it on everyone's mailbox saying, 'Hey, we got a problem. Do you know that this is what they're about to do in our neighborhood?'" And then in mass, all of you go to your city hall, your local whatever, and say, "I don't fucking think so." Right? It does change. If we can start in the small, like the local, like I say, about a community. You can start connecting communities together. That's one of my passions, is to start get people to build community and then connect those communities together so they become a greater community that is bigger, stronger, and has more courage. Because there's more voices. Yeah. No one wants to stand by themselves. It scares people shitless. But if you can stand with 50, 100, 1,000 people with you, all of a sudden it becomes much easier.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. And that's why us talking about things start to give people the courage, and then they talk about it, and we got to get more people talking about it. And then that's where the courage comes from. But the leaders in our society, that couple percent, I say leaders, those are the people that have the courage when no one else will. They need to step up and start talking about it more. Yeah. They know who they are. They're the ones that talk about it when no one else will. And we just got to keep creating that momentum. It's the momentum that we need. And we have it right now, but we got to turn it into a freaking gushing stream.
Well, you know what?
On those dams.
Something that I went through kind of like an entire cycle on as you go through your waking up process and you start researching and you start, oh my God, this and then this and then this, and you go through it. And 5-10 years ago, I was convinced that all these politicians, all these bankers, all these guys, they're all dirty, dirty, dirty. They know what's going on and they're actively partaking. And I've come around the other side of it and realized, you know what? The vast majority of them don't have a fucking clue what's going on. Mm-hmm. They don't. And because I've watched people approach politicians in smaller levels, and all of a sudden, if you can speak clearly, concisely, bring them the facts, that if they're open-minded enough and they can look at this and go, what? I didn't know this. Or you, what? And then they go, but I didn't know this. And I'm a congressman or I'm a minister of, such and such. I've come to a place now, never assume that they know. Never assume that they know. So if you see something come up, and let's say your local councilman or your local congressman or your local minister, depending on what country you're in, and they're voting on an issue, global warming, and you can say, okay, can I have 5 minutes of your time? Because most of these guys, you can book an appointment to go in to see them. And if you can come in and maybe lay them out 5 or 10 studies that totally debunk global warming, or can prove that chemtrails are real, or some issue that affects your community, and leave it with them and say, I would really appreciate, please, the research is here, do it. Don't assume that they know. I can't tell you how many times I've run into these guys, and they don't have a fucking clue.
Well, they don't. They're afraid because, you know, there's certain group, the whole group is marching in a certain direction. And if you can show them the studies, they might still be afraid.
Yeah.
We can show them studies, and then they'll start thinking, you know, like global warming. There is climate change, but it's coming from other bullshit that we're doing. And the global warming theory was based on other crap. And, you know, it's like a tundra here. I'm sitting in January and it's April. I've never seen it like this in our country ever. But, you know, global warming was a made up thing based on whatever the heck their agenda was. We do have climate change.
Oh, yeah.
But it's based on a whole bunch of other crap they're doing, you know, the geoengineering or whatever. What's so disturbing to me about the geoengineering is that why is there just a few people, loud people studying that? Why don't we have scientists, more scientists? They're seeing the skies. Then why are they so, are we really, that's where it gets the courage versus ignorance versus stupidity. How many sheep do we really have? And at what point can you get out of your sheepness and have the courage to say, okay, I am going to make the difference. I'm a scientist. I'm going to go study this and give my 2 cents towards it.
Yep.
You know, that's the courage that we need. We need a lot of people doing stuff like that.
Yep. And they're coming out. We are seeing them. They are coming out.
We need more. And we need more people supporting those people.
It works almost on the reverse psychology of it. So, for example, there was a major geoengineering study that came out 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, and when I read it, my brain exploded. Literally, I went absolutely freaking ballistic. And because this study that they're talking about for solar geoengineering, and they're back to using global warming again in this study, which I haven't seen since 2015. I was shocked. They outline in this study everything about chemtrails. How they're going to spray chemtrails, how they're going to aerosolize it. Everything is there, and all the major papers ran with this. So this is a piece where if you're a scientist or a politician, and let's say 2-3 years ago, somebody gave you a pile of research on chemtrails, and you kind of looked through it and went, yeah, but, you know, yeah. And you open the paper, and you read, and you go, holy shit. This is everything that person told me about last month, last year, whatever. Holy crap, they're actually right. This is actually happening. Seed planters, and I always talk about that. We got to plant the seeds in these guys' minds so that as maybe a few months later, another piece of proof lands in front of them that shakes them out of that brain numbness.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden lines connect and dots connect, and they go, holy shit. But if they don't have someone present them the piece to begin with, maybe those dots don't connect, or maybe it takes another 2-3 years. I'd like to see that
study. Where's the study right now?
I wrote an article on it, and I'll send you the link. I wrote an article on rts.earth.
Okay. I'd like to read that.
April 5th,
okay.
I put that out. April 5th, I slammed out a massive amount of information on it. And I did a video. Awesome. Did I do a video, guys? I did a video last week, didn't I? I think I did a video on it last week. I'll send you the links, though. I'll send you the links on it.
Excellent.
Sulfur. The big addition to it is, besides the aluminum and the strontium and the barium, all of that stuff that we know, sulfur. And it literally, when I read it,
What are they saying? Why are they saying they're doing it in the study?
To literally block out the sun.
Yeah, what is?
To block out the sun.
They
say they're going to create a solar veil over the entire planet to block out the sun's rays. Basically, they're using the model of what happened in Iceland when the Icelandic volcano blew up, and it blew so much ash into the atmosphere that it basically darkened out the sun for several weeks. That's what they're going to do.
Well, it seemed to work lately. I'm looking at the window and it's like tundra. At this time of year, we have birds singing. We have our leaves all growing and buds. It's just starting to be really cool and spring. And I'm looking out, it looks like middle of January.
Yep.
What's going on? I've never seen this in my entire life. But
well, this is the thing. So when we looked at the sulfur aspect of it, and Ann Callahan and I just literally the next day, we sat down and started brainstorming, because whenever they come up and say they're doing a study or to do this, you know that they've already done it. They've already tested it. They've already run the studies. It's by the time they go public with something like this, they've already run it. So
doesn't it make you mad that they can make,
furiously?
They can make a decision that can alter all of humanity forever.
Yep.
Because this little tight-knit group of 5 scientists thinks this is the right thing to do.
Yep.
And they haven't had they haven't really been tested. And what are they doing it for? There's bigger issues. They have we all know there's alternative motives, but what is the true motive? What does your gut say is the true reason they're doing this?
Depends on what week you talk to me on.
Well, this week, this little sliver in time.
This little sliver in time, I'm again back to I honestly think they're trying to black out the sky, because there's so much shit being seen in the sky right now. The photographs, the videos that are coming in daily.
So you think they're trying to hide the space problem? What they're doing in space and things?
Well, not just that. Literally bizarre shit that's being seen in the sky. Clouds that are square. Literally. Perfect right angles you could put up.
That's cool. I haven't seen that. I shouldn't say that's cool. We don't know why it's happening, but it's kind of cool. I'm a science geek, so when I see something like that here, I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool.
We're seeing things like the double suns, the double sun videos that are coming up, and they're coming out way huge. We have several photographers in our group here who are really big on taking photos of the moon and videos of the moon, the planets, etc.
So what's the second sun?
Seeing wild shit.
Okay, is this the Planet X?
Oh, I don't know. I don't subscribe to Planet X personally, or at least.
Okay, that's what I'm just wondering. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on it.
No, there's something going on.
I'm going to interview you for the rest of this time.
We'll do a flipper over. There we go. We'll do a flip over. You know what? Right now, there's so much shit going on, and I honestly wonder. And that's one of my theories too. Is the reason why they're playing the World War III card. They need to distract the public as much as they possibly can. So what is there going on that they're trying to we have the financial. The financial system.
Well, there's going to be a reset of something. Well, it's how they're going to manage the reset. I don't know what they're going to do, but there's going to be there's either a financial collapse or a reset. And they can do a reset in a managed way, but I don't know if they're competent enough to do it. But go ahead.
You see, I was for many, many years involved in the Iraqi dinar, Intel world, and then SARA and all of that. I was heavily involved. I had all my own Intel sources, etc. So every time anyone says reset, I go, oh, please, we're not going back there. Have we looked back to 2012 again? Oh my God.
Well, but there has been countries that have done resets and it's worked, and there's countries that have completely imploded, and that's the only way they get out of it. So are we going to do we have to implode?
It has to be a global reset, though. And that's the whole thing.
Yeah, you're right with that.
It has to be a global.
But maybe that's one of the reasons they want to get the whole global underneath one thing. I'm not that naive to think that's the only reason.
Well, you know what? One of my questions I have about Bitcoin is, and I follow it very, very closely, or I should say my husband follows it very, very closely for me, and he feeds me all the information as necessary. We watched the price, and you've talked to Cliff High, so I know that you know about Cliff's predictions.
I wrote a book on blockchain stuff.
Oh,
that's my
you?
background. It's in cryptocurrencies is in my background, but I have computer science engineering. I was responsible for. Someday I can tell you my background, but I came from telecommunications and networking and everything. But yeah.
So numbers are a big deal to me, and not that I follow numerology because I actually don't, but I know that the quintessential they follow numerology pretty heavily. So I always pay attention when I see numbers come up. And one of the things that I've wondered is, are we looking at them using the Bitcoin? And we've seen the buy. So we saw Mark Carney come out 4 weeks ago and say officially yeah, we think it should not be regulated. Now, Mark Carney, this is the head of the Bank of England. When he says, makes a recommendation, it's a signal. Now, we know that Rothschild, Rockefeller, and Soros, and Warren Buffett has bought in ages ago, but all three of them have all made announcements that they've all bought into cryptocurrencies in the last 2 weeks. Now, are they about to, they take it, and I've suggested back in December when we watched the prices start to plummet, I said they're lowering the prices so that the countries can buy in. All the central banks can buy in. They need to keep that price low. Well, the countries are going to
take them over. They're going to force everybody into a certain currency. They are going to have their own currencies, period.
Guaranteed. They've announced it. They've already, like Russia's already announced it. They've announced that they're going to do this.
Well, you know, the IMF said that there's always going to be a place for Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies. And so that's interesting for them to say that. And outside of the government currencies. So we'll see. I don't know if I believe that will happen. But the governments are going to end up having their own currencies. They're going to force you to use it for purposes of transactions. Otherwise, you are, not legal. Because they need to control it for the purposes of taxation and controlling the people. Taxes are the way they do social manipulation because it's too hard. It's too hard to get things done with normal bills and laws and things. So they use the tax code because it's easy. People don't pay attention to taxes. So they do all this stuff in social engineering in the tax code.
Oh, absolutely.
Really, yeah. So they're not going to get rid of that.
That goes into the tax code.
You really think they're going to get rid of all that?
No, I think that they're going to end up. I think you're going to see a game played out. And what I think, and I've got a really good friend of mine, Jeff Gates, who is another person who I listen to quite a bit because he's very, very savvy when it comes to all of this stuff. And we've had many hours upon hours of conversation on this topic. You have this cryptocurrency that is all of a sudden, and I'm not just talking about Bitcoin now, I'm talking about cryptocurrencies in general.
There's thousands of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And we are seeing right now, I am 100% positive, we are seeing the co-opting of the cryptocurrencies by the talking heads, by the central banks, by the governments, by all these big businessmen. Their plan is to co-opt and use it.
And it's not bad. I mean, we pretty much have a digital currency right now with our credit cards and everything else. It's just completely insecure.
But what I think that we're seeing, though, is in all the other things that we've talked about tonight, with the science, etc., there are people within the cryptocurrencies who are not going to allow this to happen, who are going to keep the deregulation thing on the table. And they will not be able to, the quintessential, like I say, the talking heads, they will not be able to smother these other cryptocurrencies. They just won't be able to. Because they've been set up in such a way. Yeah, this is one of those things where all we can do is watch it play out. Because none of us.
Well, they're decentralized management, these other cryptocurrencies, to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And they still have the people who manage the cryptocurrencies, the ones who make the Bitcoin, mine them. But beyond that, it's it's decentralized. They can force you to register, and if that starts happening, there are some methods they can do. People are like adamant there isn't, but I know that there are, and there are some things they can do. But I would like to see a lot of that stuff. I mean, personally, I want to get the banking system out of it. So even if the government puts together their own cryptocurrencies, that would remove a lot of the standard banks functions. It could be a lot better in that way. I'm not advocating if the federal government did that and they weren't assholes and it turned into technocracy, but if they did it and they did it as a functional thing, and it removed this whole banking layer that takes advantage of everybody, it could be a good thing. If the cryptocurrencies, the coins, get rid of the stock market, say, all these companies are issuing their own coins, those can be really good. It can clean up the Wall Street.
Yep.
All this stuff can happen even if the government gets involved.
Yep, I agree.
The scary part of the government getting involved to that degree is they can force a technocracy, and that is where it's scary.
See, and I think they've lost control of that. I honestly don't believe that they can force it, that technocracy to that level that you're talking about.
Like China's doing.
I don't think they can, because China has an isolated population. Let's face it, they within even their internet is very isolated. We live in a technological age right now of communication, instantaneous communication, that is the likes of which we've never experienced before. And I think that that is one of the things that they underestimated, let's say.
Well, can we stop World War III? We stop World War III? Can our instant communication stop
Absolutely.
World War III? Can we stop this war in Syria?
I think so. I think doing what we're doing, where we call out the bullshit. I know that I've got people on my Facebook.
I hope so. I hope you're right.
Oh my God, she's at it again. And But you know what? The more information comes out, the more information comes out, the more information comes out. I always say people cannot unhear what they've heard.
Can't unlearn what you know.
They cannot unread what they've read. And even if they don't believe it in the moment, that next month, when the same thing happens all over again.
The dripping of information.
And that's it. And I think that we absolutely can. And I think that we are the co-opting of the system. We have the power to, and I think it's a matter of, you said it, momentum. We have a momentum.
We got to get more momentum. I'd like to stop this war I'd like to make sure we don't do World War III. Yep. And maybe that's what our collective agenda needs to be, because that's really scary.
Again, though, I don't think World War III will happen. And my thing that I put out a big article about it earlier this week, and I said, I've been calling this out since 2014, saying it's not going to happen. They keep playing this card. It goes Ukraine, North Korea, Syria, Libya. Oh, let's go back to the Ukraine again. Okay, now it's North Korea, and it goes to Syria. And we see it go like this, like we did with North Korea back in February. Oh my God, North Korea, and Trump's yelling he's going to basically nuke their pants off, and blah, 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 blah. And the rest of the world sat there going, look, the Koreas are marching together in the Olympics.
Yeah, that was great.
There have been peace talks, and oh my God. And everyone's kind of looking at the Americans going, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. They're in the Olympics together. We're seeing that again. And so when the North Korea doesn't work, they move to Syria and they start shit up again in Syria.
Well, Syria's been going on if Assad falls, that we could, I did this. I had Senator Black on, and I had this little book that I put together based on that interview. And over 4 million people, based on all his research, will be slaughtered if Assad falls. I mean, that's not okay for us under our watch, for us to, and I don't know. We can't let that happen.
No, we can't. But that's it. All we can do is get the courage. And it's even the courage of things, even the courage to just post it on your Facebook wall. Post your Instagram and say, I'm not okay with this. Do your family and friends comprehend what the actual facts of what is really going on in Syria? Because people buy into the Kool-Aid. They drink the Kool-Aid. They buy into all this bullshit. Oh, he's a dictator and he's done chemical weapons against his people. And you're like, yeah, no, he's not. And no, he didn't. And if you take 30 seconds to research, you will start to have questions.
Well, and I have some sources in the Middle East, and I've been emailing them over the last weekend, trying to understand, and I understand Assad's family. Okay, Assad's family is a dictatorship. They have done things to make it so that they're in power for life, and that people don't like it. They want a democracy. There's groups of people. Okay, fine. But as far as Assad his family did shut people down and do some things to force this dictatorship, okay? But as far as the chemical weapons and all this BS that they're saying, that's not true. And as far as, there might have been some in the past to shut down opposition. I don't know. I'm looking into that. But as far as this whole situation now, it's U.S. funding ISIS. And when we took out Libya, that's where they got most of their weapons. And now there's a coalition of ISIS and Taliban and
Al-Nusra and Al-Qaeda and
Al-Qaeda forming.
God,
the
there's now
Taliban.
so many of them, I can't even keep them straight anymore.
But the three big ones are creating this coalition because there's a big vacuum in Iraq because we were idiots there. And Mosul, which is the second largest city in Iraq, has been completely taken over by terrorists. And they have, what I understand with Iraq, and this is what they're worried about is going to happen in Syria. You take down Assad. And what happened in Iraq when they took down Saddam, now at least Saddam, we know he was really creepy, right? We know he was an asshole. But they took him down and he got replaced with a bunch of other smaller dictatorships all over the country. And they have their thiefdoms. It's like mob rule with small dictatorships. And they're worried if you take down Assad, those people are either going to slaughter millions of people, and then there's going to be all these like mini dictators all over, and it's going to be like Mad
exactly
Max.
like Libya, exactly like Iraq. This is the thing. This is even going by the mainstream rhetoric. Let's say that all you watch is CNN and the BBC, and you know nothing other than what they tell you. You have to have enough logic in your head to go, okay, wait a second. They went into Iraq and look what the fuck happened. Then they went into Libya and look what the fuck happened. Then they went into the Sudan and Somalia and of course, Afghanistan, and look what the hell happened. Okay. Even the average person, Joe Blow on the street, has to be able to go, okay, wait a second. You can't, what's the expression? Stupidity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Well, in Afghanistan, we took them down, and now they have the largest, opium. It was all about opium. And they have they have the military guarding the opium fields. But, the military, these poor veterans, they go over there, they realize what the hell they're doing, which isn't what they were sold as young teenagers. We're going to go in, we're fighting for freedom. They're 18 years old. They've been brainwashed, and they want something better for themselves and their lives. And they go over there and they realize they're what are we doing here?
Yeah, wait, we're guarding opium fields. Wait.
Yeah, they're damaged mentally because they're doing things that they realize what they're doing, right? And so the suicide rate amongst veterans is off the chart. 21, 22 a day. I did a chart. This was 2 years ago now. And I charted it out on the last 15 years, how many people died in combat in Vietnam and how many people died in the last 15 years from suicide and combat. We're beyond, because we've hardly anybody dying in combat in comparison.
No.
But if you count in the suicides, which is a damage from war, right?
It is.
They're mentally
100%.
damaged from war.
Yep.
Yeah. That has bypassed the number of people who have died in Vietnam. We've bypassed the number of people who've died in World War I. We have not bypassed World War II because it's like twice as much as World War I.
Yeah.
But we've already bypassed it. How much loss do we need to suffer just from lives, just soldiers' lives in this country?
Well, and you take the numbers, and then you go, how many of these soldiers have died from the chemical tests that were done on them, the biological tests that were done on them, the vaccines that they were given? And I mean, I'm sorry, the American military has got a very lovely, long history of testing vaccines and biological agents on their own military. How many of them have come back with, let alone being mentally and emotionally broken, being physically broken from the crap that's been put into their bodies? I know several. I'm ex-military myself. I was Canadian military.
Oh, wow, okay.
I know several people whose bodies were destroyed by the vaccines they were given in the military, who have now got autoimmune diseases so bad that they can't get out of bed. And then they can't get a job. And they end up being a veteran who's sitting on the street side begging for change. And, they die of freezing cold because, of course, someone's just passed a law in some state that says, oh, you can't give them food, shelter, money, food,
Oh, that's
whatever.
yeah, and those don't count in the stats that I had.
Those aren't even in the stats. No. How many vets
they're
have
not
died from not getting medical help? It's astronomical. It's beyond astronomical. But here's the thing.
The reason why the public doesn't know to this degree, because I've had some high-level military people on, and the reason they don't know is because it's a volunteer. It's not a draft. And so it's a professional army, right? And they view themselves as professionals to a certain extent, and so they don't talk about it when they're back. Whereas if we had every Joe and Blow and Harry being drafted, they'd come back and tell everybody how much bullshit. Whereas that's not happening now because it's a professional army. That's what's going on to a greater extent. Basic
training in your first year or two in the military is all about brainwashing you. It's all about programming. It's about literally destroying yourself and sense of self and reprogramming you into the rhetoric. And the rhetoric is, you don't complain, be a tough boy, you want to, et cetera, et cetera. That means you don't come back. And you don't come back and say this shit because it's been programmed out of you that you just don't talk this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's what we're dealing with. Whereas if you did have a draft, that's what happened in Vietnam. They had a draft, and so people came back and said, this is all bullshit. Yeah. And so you had a lot of people say, but they don't get that now. And because of what you're talking about, it's a constant. You got to toe the line. You got to be this way. And so they suffer in silence, and that's what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't claim to be completely all knowing on the situation. And so I apologize to anybody who is offended by me acting like I know. I think that's a big part of it. I know there's more to it.
Oh yeah. There's so much more to it.
Yeah.
But we taking the conversation back to the Middle East. And I always use Gaddafi as the perfect example. Because yes, he was a dictator. Yes, he totally was a dictator. He was in power for 30 odd years? And yet, no IMF debt. They had all the gold. They had stuff that he did for his people. Like when they got married, people got given lumps of stuff. They got given money for cars. When they went to university, if you were going to higher education in Libya, you got a crap load of stuff given to you. You were paid a wage commensurate to what you would be making so that you could go to university. He paid for all this stuff.
Yes, yes.
And the Americans ignored Gaddafi for 30 years. And it wasn't until Gaddafi announced that he was putting out a gold-backed dinar for all of Africa to use. All of Africa.
That's when they took him out, yep.
2 months later, they walked in and they wiped him out. Now we look at Libya now. Is one of the most worst. It is hell on earth.
Well, they took out all their infrastructure. Yeah, they immediately took out their water supply, and so people don't have water. So what are we doing? We take these people,
and then the military just leaves. The French, the Americans, the British, they all went in there. They did their little job. They destroyed the country, and then they fucked off and left.
I know.
I'm in Malta. So if anyone doesn't understand, because Malta's like the size of a pea, it's the tiniest little country.
Is that where you're living right now?
That's where I live right now. We are in between Libya and Italy, in the middle of the Mediterranean. Now, we have a shit ton of Libyans here who have come here on rowboats in rubber dinghies. And I have a good friend of mine who has been search and rescue pilot here in Malta for 20 years. And his job is to fly and find these dinghies trying to cross the ocean and pull these people out and get them to safety. The stories they tell are unlike, and this is one I get so angry at Westerners who are living in their safe little countries. And I say, you have no fucking concept of what these people have been through. And yet, they're going to repeat this. They're trying to repeat the exact same formula again in Syria.
Yeah, I just, it's crazy.
That alone, let alone dictator, not dictator, evil man, good man, regardless of that, if you know nothing else, you should be able to look at what happened in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Libya, in the Sudan, in Somalia, and say, wait a second. Why are we repeating this whole program again in Syria?
Yeah.
What?
It's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious. The fact that we screwed up a country that was flourishing is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you, why did you move to Malta?
Because I can't stand living in North America anymore. Can't. Just can't.
You made that move. Now, what is it like in Malta?
Malta is it's a strange, no. It's a very Catholic country. It is more Catholic than Italy.
Oh.
We have more churches, Catholic churches per capita than any other country of the world.
Then why Malta?
It's a long history. My first husband was half Maltese, and we lived here in the 90s. And so it was just one of those things. So like, we live in the smaller island. It's a little archipelago of islands, and nice. I live on the smaller island, and it's safe. Our kids, my girls, get on the bus and they go, "Yeah, Mom, we're going into the main town," and they go shopping and they go to the library, and they go meet the other kids, and they all come back and they go out after dark and go, "Oh, we're going to go to the shop and go get." And you never have to think twice. Like, you just, at no point do I ever go, "Oh my God, my kids aren't going to be safe. I can't let them go to the beach by themselves." No, that's the number one reason why I stay here, is because for my kids, they have a certain safety here, and we give up other things because homeschooling is illegal here. So I'm breaking the law, and vaccinating is mandatory here. So yeah, I'm breaking the law.
What's the weather like? I know we're digressing, but what's the weather like?
It's winter. We had a pretty harsh winter this year, kind of like everywhere. Do you want anywhere near as cold as you guys, though? Like, it goes down to
see what it is outside right now?
Snow and ice and miserable grayness.
This is middle of April. Can you see that?
Wow. Do you have your Christmas lights up? I think you should start singing Christmas. Start singing Christmas songs again, because it looks like Christmas out there.
That's April. It's usually, like I said, budding. It's terrible. I live in the woods, so I love that.
We're having hurricanes here. We had one just this weekend. We're windy because we're a little tiny island in the middle of the Mediterranean, so it's the windy island. But we've had winds this year, the likes of which we've never seen before. Like, we're talking, we have had, in the last month, we've had 3 storms come through where the winds have hit force 8 and force 9.
Oh, geez.
That's one step below hurricane. Just 2 nights ago. It was insane.
Is that because you're on the water, Mediterranean stuff?
But never like this. It's never been like this. Has been crazy, insane weather. Now it's gotten mild, like it's been lovely. So our days have been like 18, 19 degrees, and we've been out in the sun, and we had the kids at the beach today. I won't go swimming because holy shit, the water's cold. But it's nice enough that you can go out in shorts and a t-shirt during the day. But the winds, and again, we've got supposed to have horrific winds coming back in starting tomorrow morning, and we have 3 days of thunderstorms.
Yeah, it's just weird. Well, I'm in the Twin Cities, so I'm in Minnesota. But there's this time of year, there's soccer tournaments outside, all the schools doing their spring sports. Nobody can do anything now. It's
track and field.
I've never felt like that. Yeah, I've never seen this. So it's interesting. I don't know why. There can be an anomaly that's normal. You always have normal weirds, but we'll see.
I've been talking about this weather pattern shifts for many, many years, and I've gone the gamut of all the theories because I'll sit there and I'll take apart any theory. Someone throw me a theory, and I'll sit down and I'll research it and go, okay, how does this puzzle piece fit into the puzzle? And then well, maybe that is something that's going on. Maybe I have to look at this. So it's crazy. And it's been going on for years, and it's not just North America, and it's not, we were in Morocco for 4 years, and we had snow in the Sahara in August. In August.
Wow.
Like, I mean, okay, snow in the Sahara happens very, very occasionally. There's been snow in the Sahara every single winter for the last 4 years, like snow. And we actually had a snow ice storm hit the Sahara in August in 2015. And at that point, you have to go, okay, wait a second. Wait.
It's a little bit weird.
Wait a second.
Do you get questions from the people that are up here ever? I saw a question, they want to know where I was at, and so like, where did I live? That's why I answered that. And I'm wondering, someone wrote
usually what we do is at the end, once we close down the live stream, we open the floor to everyone, and everyone comes on and just throws on the mics, and we'll have like a little chit chat about what's going on.
Okay.
Sometimes we'll have questions, and at those points, I usually get someone ping, go, Danny, ask this. So.
Okay.
It gets nuts sometimes.
Well, what else do you want to know? I've interviewed so many people on so many subjects, and I've dug into so many different things. And technology and science is always on
technology and science is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, and geopolitics and money. We've talked about all that, but I also have interviewed people on the aging phenomena. We are really close at solving aging. And I've talked to the top scientists in the world on that. And
interesting things coming out in that area right now.
Yeah. And
they have C60 is one of the pieces, but that's only just one.
Well, the C60 is amazing, but the telomere lengthening, they have the ability. Bill Andrews came out in my show. I feel kind of cool because Cliff High and I talked about C60 on my show, and it sold out in the industry. And then I started getting everybody on about C60. Cliff mentioned it, but it was on my show. And then Bill Andrews came out he had a full solution for telomere lengthening on my show. First time in the West.
I hadn't seen that one. Oh, yeah, you'll have to drop me that link because I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, well, he's doing a study or a trial in the East because it's not legal here. But they have over 1,500 people already signed up for it at $2 million a pop, 2.5 million or 2.4 million. They're using it to fund more research to find a cheaper solution, but it actually does 100%. Lengthens, as far as I know. They're doing a lemur study. It's the smallest mammal on the planet because it's our smallest primate, on the planet, and it's the closest to us as a primate. And it's less expensive. It's like a little over 1,000 per little guy. And so they're testing it, but they can link, that and combined with C60. I have another company I've talked to that works with pets, and theirs is a 34% telomere lengthening with the C60 combined that they're giving to pets because it's legal for pets, and they're seeing phenomenal results. And I'm telling you, we're right on the edge of solving a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of ethics around that. I started writing a book on that and I just can't get it done. And I'm probably just going to publish a couple chapters or something on for my Patreons or something. And, but the ethics around it's kind of is a big deal. I mean, what are we going to do with it? And there's a good and bad, again, like everything else. And, the good is maybe we need to live longer to be able to solve these problems. We all are children. We don't.
If all of a sudden you're going to be around an extra 50 years, maybe people will start taking a little more care of the planet that they live on.
Well, and maybe they're more, because some people don't really wake up until they're, in their 40s or 50s, and that's pretty the natural. And for you probably woke up a lot earlier than most, and they but they get in their prime when they're in their 50s, and how much longer do they have? And sometimes these solutions can take a good half decade or a half century. For a lot of these things. So we have time to live and get things done. So
I agree.
There's that benefit, right? But then the other thing is
comes wisdom.
Well, there's a lot, But then what do we do with a-holes that dominate the money, and it costs money to get it, and so we only have the wealthy that's going to be able to live longer, or we only have. I mean, there's some bad things. Dictators stay in power forever. I mean, there's some negatives.
We're already seeing it. Well, with David Rockefeller, it had how many fucking heart transplants? 6? Was it 6 before he finally died? He had 6 heart transplants. Wait a second.
But he still died at 100 or whatever he was.
Yeah, he was like 103 or something, and he looked good.
But think of living to be 250. You know.
Yeah. Have you seen the TV show called Altered Carbon?
No, I have not.
Ooh, is it Netflix, guys? It tackles all of this, and basically it's the computer chip that they put your consciousness into a computer chip, and then as you're dying, you can just pull the chip out and plug it into a new body, and they create brand new cloned bodies and a whole bit. There's some, you can talk about the ethical. It's worth.
I've talked to the top scientists.
Gross, but it's well worth watching just to see some of the ethical debating.
Well, I have a show on that where I talked to some of the top scientists in the world working on that technology, and it's, you know, there's questions. We know that we're more than just what's in our head.
Mm-hmm.
We're everything, right? We're a collection. We're a system. So that's an example of somebody looking at one sliver and not looking at the whole. Because we know that our stomach we have muscle memory, we have a brain in our stomach, we have a whole ecosystem. Our emotions are our bacteria, and there's so many things going on. And so if all you're going to do is take the robotic memories from your brain and think that you're going to duplicate us, you know,
that's what I'm saying.
Simplified.
Check the show out, because it gets into the whole concept of consciousness. And where does consciousness?
Oh, cool! I gotta watch it. It must be great.
It like I said, the show itself is a little hard on the stomach. It's kind of brutal in ways, but some of the stuff that they discuss in the show is very interesting. And we've seen a lot of that coming out now, right? Like, we're seeing this. You brought up Avatar at the beginning of the show. Mm-hmm. We're talking about an entire, you know, taking consciousness and transferring it into a completely different vessel, as I call this, right? A lot of movies, a lot of TV shows are talking about Westworld is going to be starting up again next week, and that's another whole the whole question of consciousness and what
you see my show on Max Champy and Phil Catalino and those guys that are able to control consciousness in animals. And convince them to move from one field to the next. See, that's when you go, like, when they can do this. Yeah, see, same thing. They can do this with animals. They're already doing it with people. That's for me. Oh, well, yeah. When they go public and they say, "Oh, we're just doing this piece of research," it's like, yeah, right. Tell me another. Well, these guys are ethical. These are my scientists that I
know. Exactly.
But yeah, they know how to do it, and so it's what's possible. And if it's possible, people are going to do it for good and nefarious reasons. And that's why when we have the basis is corrupt, we have to turn that over and to have a chance.
Yeah,
I think. We can't have the kinds of criminals that we have in power right now.
The system allows it, and this is where we need to tear down the system. As far as I'm concerned, that the entire political structure, the entire financial structure, the entire medical structure, the entire energy structure. Each of these pieces, these pyramids, is extremely flawed. You cannot work within those structures. This is where it all has to be brought down and rebuilt. We need to have a new way of looking at medicine and health.
Definitely
energy. Yeah. You know, you were talking about it with the whole thing with the guys with the water. What about free energy? I hate the term free energy, but alternative energy.
I know multiple energy sources that are pretty cool. Yeah. You know, so
that's my husband's thing. He works in designing stuff and inventing stuff all the time. So why are they not out? Well, because of the corrupt system that allows them to be hidden.
Our money is tied to oil. Our money is tied to oil. That's why they're not out.
Yep.
Period.
If our money is tied to big pharma, which is why you have none of the cannabis cures. This is why you have none of the alternative cures for cancer, etc. Is why you have. So I've got a mosquito who's buzzing my head and is making me nuts. But again, it's the flaw that is inherent in the structure of the existing control paradigm. Until those are taken down, we're always going to have the same problems keep coming up, because there's always going to be another corrupt guy. David Rockefeller's gone, evil son of a bitch that he was, but guess what? There's just another one to take his place. Until we can take that down, that we can actually rebuild a structure.
What do you suggest we replace it with?
Oh, I have not a freaking clue. Not a clue. And it used to be the joke that when I was in Canada, I used to have people who tell me I should run. And I'd be like, oh, no, you would not want me in power. Because there could be some serious rules that would make a lot of people really, really fucking angry real fast. I'd be assassinated so quick it wouldn't be funny. But it's something we need to come up with together as a society. Do you know what I'm saying? Like this, and it starts at the basis of every single block of society, whether it's education, right there. If we can't change that structure, how do we grow the unique humans that have the sense of courage to be able to do these things?
Yep, we need the courage. It all comes back to that.
Yep.
The courage to do what's right. And for some reason, that lack of courage has been gone for too long. But this momentum is what will create that courage. More people talking about, more people getting courage to talk. So it's almost 2 hours.
Yep, that's it, folks. Well, I was just going to say, we are at the end of the show. Sarah, here's your reminder to send me all of your links, etc., in an email tonight. I will have the archive of this out tomorrow. It'll be on rts.earth, which is my site. And I will immediately send a link over to Sarah as well, so she can republish it if she wants.
Yay.
And I will get, if we can kind of, all my minders here who are in the audience with us, some of these videos that we've discussed, some of these conversations that we've discussed, for example, the universal language, I will republish the link to that in the archive, so you guys who missed it on Wednesday can dig into it. Sarah has a Patreon account, which is fantastic. I'm a member. I suggest that if you want to get in there, be a member, help support Sarah and her work, and then we all support each other. That's the way it needs to be.
Do you have a Patreon account too?
No.
You do?
No.
You
I have a private membership site called Unfuckers Unite.
I know that, yep.
If you want to be an unfucker, come on over. We just launched the site, officially launched it about 2 weeks ago. So we're still in building structure and getting all sorts of stuff in there. I'm working on the library right now, which is like, holy crap. Daunting getting this library built. So, yeah.
Well, you're a free thinker. You think in so many directions. It's really fun to talk to you.
Oh, well, I think
great.
Well, my Patreon, having a very short attention span.
Well, that's okay. A lot of really bright people do. Well, my Patreon, I do special content for my patrons, exclusive, interviews. And if someone can't afford it, I tell them, if you can't afford it, it's as little as $1 a month, but I ask for more if you can. But if you can't afford it, I will send you the information for free, because I don't feel like I should be blocking things. But at the same point, I got to live. So that's how I'm trying to keep going on this. And I take it really seriously. I get into some dark issues. Like you try to stay away from it. I totally get why people try to stay away from the issue of the child trafficking and stuff. I do dive into some of those real dark things, and it bothers me to the point where I've been sick for it. I've done a 4-hour show on Haiti, the Haiti situation with Azealia Danto, and what really happened. And I tell you, I got sick after those, because like you were saying, it is very difficult to do, and it consumes me, and then my immunity system goes down, and then I get sick because I care so much. And then I have to stop for a little bit, and then I get back into it because I can't not do it. It's one of those things. When you said once you learn, you can't unlearn. I can't not know what I know now. Unfortunately, right. I know what I know, and I'm fighting for the underdog, I guess. I don't know, but I can't let this, I can't not do it. Yep. So
I hear you. And it's the same thing.
Is what I do.
I dig into a lot of other subjects that I always say to people, you may not want to dig into this. When you get into like some of the MK Ultra stuff that I've gone really, really deep into, I'm like, don't think that you have to go research it. You can choose. You can say, okay, here's the basic points. I've got it. I don't feel the need to go that deep. I'm going to move on to the next subject. We all have our pieces that we have to dig.
It's like I know enough to help end it, but I don't want to know every detail. And it depends on where you're at. It's important that we know some of this stuff, though.
Yeah, it is.
I had Scott the Survivor on, and he really enlightened me on how it really works with the political bigwigs. And you know that email that came out from WikiLeaks on the children for your entertainment in the pool.
Yeah.
The Democratic fundraiser has been going on for years, where they bring children after those fundraisers and they have fun with them.
Yeah, I know.
And he explained it and how it works. And he was one of those kids. And he was saying he was 9 or whatever he was. And the kids that were 6 and 7, it's their first time. And they were comforting the younger ones. Oh my God, the 9-year-old comforting the 7-year-old.
Yep.
It's just, it's like awful. But, it's important that we know. So we put into it. But I want to thank you so much for having me today. And I don't want to, Danny usually can do up to 4 hours of a thing, and I have
sometimes we go insane. Yeah, we've had some insane shows,
and I'd love to do that at some time. I just can't today, so I apologize.
Well, you know what? Another time we'll revisit some of this stuff, because we've really, again, kind of only just scratched the surface on a whole shit ton of topics.
Well, and I got to tell you, getting into my passion subject, I just interviewed Taina Amai. She's Chief Taina Amai. She's the head of the intertribal police force for all of the Americas. And she came on, and very good interview. And she just laid it out on what her thoughts are. I was so happy that she came on. People should watch that, because she's a true leader and somebody who's making a difference and wasn't afraid to say what the truth is.
Yeah, I've worked with several First Nations groups, and it is one of my passions as well. And it doesn't matter whether it's North American, down in Australia with the Aborigines. I mean, it doesn't matter. These are the people that are seriously getting stomped on.
Oh yeah, and you got to listen to her. She's and she's a leader not only of that community, but should be for everyone. I mean, she's just an amazing person.
Oh, well, I'm going to look forward to listening to that. I will look forward to listening to that.
Okay.
Thank you, Sarah, so much for coming on tonight. This was an awesome discussion. I can't believe 2 hours has gone by already. It's like,
I know, it goes like that.
And we'll have you back on again. Most definitely, most definitely. If you want to hang around for a few minutes, if you have time. That's it, guys, for tonight. Next show on Wednesday night will be the Unfuck It discussion. Our open mic, everyone, let's talk. And the shit tends to get crazy, especially if Ben's around. And Ben may have some stuff to get into, because he's just been off on a big blast of one recently. So we may have some interesting shit to discuss on Wednesday. And we'll be back next Sunday for Transpicuous Views or Quintessentially Whole. We haven't quite figured out which show is going to be on Sunday. And that's it for us for tonight. I want to thank everyone for joining us on the live stream, and we will see you next week. Bye, everyone.